God, we thank you for allowing these people to graduate, your students, your class of 2018 from Arts and Technology Academy of Pontiac, God. God, we ask that you just continue to protect and guide them as they go along their journeys, oh God. God, we ask that you allow this occasion to be fulfilled and glorious and just a congratulatory occasion, oh God. In your name we pray, amen.
Good evening, and welcome to the Arts and Technology Academy of Pontiac's 2018 commencement ceremony. Today is a joyous occasion, an occasion in which we celebrate the hard work and dedication of our students, faculty, and parents. We are so proud of the accomplishments of our students and are thankful to all of you who are a witness to this milestone in their lives. This ceremony is not the end. In fact, the definition of commencement is beginning or start. We hope that you continue to encourage them to do great things as they begin their lives and start something new. And for that, we say, welcome. Please stand for the singing of the national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad strokes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
This year's valedictorian is Mr. Michael Goodman. Michael has been enrolled at ATAP for 13 years since kindergarten. Michael has a 3.528 GPA and has proven over the years that if you want something out of life, you have to do what it takes and go get it, regardless of the obstacles. Michael served as a mentor and has dreams and aspirations of moving to California when he graduates. Michael was recently awarded a scholarship with the Ascend Foundation for Academic Excellence and a recipient of the U.S. Presidential Scholars Award and will be traveling to D.C. This is such a high honor that the announcement was printed in the Oakland Press. We expect great things from him in the future. We present to you this year's valedictorian, Mr. Michael Goodman.
Fellow graduates, faculty, family, and friends, how did it all go by so fast? It seems like only about a week ago that we were a bunch of freshmen fighting with the locks on our lockers, wondering when the next school day will be canceled due to inclement weather. We thought that we're better than everyone else up on campus. I guess that last one turned out to be true, because really, who's better than the class of 2018? As my class was supposed to say, 18? I'm not graduating from ATAP, are now the proud young adults who stand here ready to graduate and start on our own personal paths to becoming a song called rappers real stage or however we define success nowadays. But yet at this fundamental moment, we can't help but look back. How do we measure the time that we spent in high school? In the beginning, we measured it in class periods, counting down the days till a teacher couldn't tell us what to do anymore. As the days and weeks passed, we counted it in semesters, and the amount of times Miss Otis could send someone out the roof for problem solving. Yet we evolved from those clueless yet cocky freshmen into somewhat sophisticated sophomores who thought that they had it all figured out. By the time we reached our junior year, we were confident that we were prepared to take over for the senior class. And we couldn't wait to make our mark. Or get out as soon as possible, depending on who you asked. I know that as I look out at all of you, I will measure my time here in a much different way. I will measure it in all the bonds and friendships I've made over these years, as my time as a ATAP lion, rule of school spirit, and all that. Some of you have been pretty high and by, with others I was much closer, but I feel that we will all fondly remember all the friendships and relationships we made these past few years. Now that our rule is over, and that our chapter in ATAP's memoir comes to a close, it's up to the next class to step into our Kevin Durant-sized shoes and take over. We stand here today on the precipice of the future, and it is not a distant reality anymore. We began high school as children, and we are leaving here as adults, minus a select few of us who have yet to reach the age of majority. And to those of you who haven't, I'll say that school nights are no longer a thing you have to worry about anymore. You can stay up as late as you want. But in all seriousness, we have completed an education that will serve as the platform to launch us all into our own separate futures. Some of us will go on college, others straight into the workforce, but each of us will create our own path. If you've ever been in a room with me over these past few years, you know that I don't hold back my opinion in any type of way. Sometimes it's a bad thing. But I'm here to tell you that no matter what we do or where we go, there will always be challenges along the way. What I'm asking from the class of 2018 and of myself is to meet those challenges head on with our heads held high and our hearts open wide. It is not enough to simply try and get by in life. That does not move the world forward in a time when it is truly needed. You must excel in everything you do. Strive for excellence in every task, large or small. Shoot for the moon. Maybe you'll make it there. Maybe you'll end up among the stars. Oh, and while you're up there, whoever makes it to space, a lot of people have been saying that the Earth is flat recently. So while you're up there, do me a favor and take a picture, because if they're right, some people, where's Miss Otis, has something to explain. But I know you guys are tired of talking, so to the last paragraph. Last but not least, I'd like to give thanks to our teachers and staff, both those still here and those who have come and gone. Thank you for so unselfishly sharing your time, knowledge, and talent with all of us. I know now that there are no bounds in the amount of time Mr. Keynote can play Pink Floyd, or the amount of times that Fairbanks can make a joke about me and my girlfriend potentially being a catfish in California. Which I will mention by any chance, my girlfriend is beautiful. To our parents and family members, thank you for supporting us in more ways than it's possible to count. You dragged us out of bed each morning. You made sure that we were fed and clothed for school, even though that was not very hard with ATAP's endorsed and mildly enforced uniform policy. That I happy is gone. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of us. Class of 2018. I believe we have set an example for the years to come and a strong standard for future ATAP graduating classes to achieve and surpass, although that may be a little bit of a challenge. Also, without students, teachers wouldn't have their very, 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 very underpaid profession, which, when I run for president, I'll be on the top of my Lastly, congratulations to my fellow graduates of the class of 2018. Wherever we go and whatever we do, let us do our best and more.
Amen.
This year's salutatorian is Savannah Simone Tatum. Savannah has been enrolled at ATAP for 3 years. Her GPA is 3.46. Savannah is one that doesn't believe in shying away from asking for what she wants. She was a mentor, was a student council member, and a part of the senior committee. Savannah strongly believes in the concept of work smarter, not harder. She excelled academically, and we expect great things from her in the future. We present to you this year's salutatorian, Miss Savannah Simone Tatum.
Hello, parents and staff of Arts and Technology. How's y'all doing today? Because I'm doing great. Everyone's so ready. Everyone's so ready to leave and enter the world. I ain't ready to pay all these future bills, but seriously, we all work for this diploma, and the only reason why they handed it to us was because we earned it. High school has had its downs, but it's had its ups too. During the years at ATAP, we have had a lot of changes in staff members, especially during the school year. In place of a teacher, we had subs for the rest of the year. We were left to teach ourselves, but we had more than ourselves. We had each other. A class that cheats together, fast together. I'm just kidding. Then there's our ups, like senior day, senior send-off, and we walked around the school and all the young kids was happy to see drumline and have one of our little papers of advice. Prom, and everyone can't say at 17 and 18 they went to the Bahamas, but some of us can say we did that. One thing I can say about class of 2018 is that we speak our minds, and every person walking across the stage is determined. As we grow into young adults, we slowly start to see things through our parents' eyes, with responsibilities that we start to withhold. Like some of us have jobs, a car, kids of our own, moved out, and we have to balance out all the drama, any losses, personal issues, and we have to prevail and make sure education is one of our main priorities. The only person that can hold us back is ourselves, and we have to make the best of what we got. When we was young as freshmen or sophomores, we was worried about what clothes we wear, who went to who, or what she said, he said, or who your friends are. As you get older, junior and senior, you stop caring about what others have to think, and you figure out what you like and what you're going to do. Along the way, you start to figure out who you are and what you're going to do with the rest of your life. At this time, I want to shout out some of my teachers. I want to thank Ms. Otis for showing to me as a student. Coach Taylor, he's taught sociology and global conflict. It wasn't always papers, it was interactive assignments, discussion groups. He taught outside the box, and I appreciate that. And I also want to shout out Ms. Williams for helping me learn how to plan and think and go through all the proper steps to what I have to do and who to go through. A special thanks to Fairbanks, Hooks, G, Mr. Gag. G. Shout out to G.
Miss Blake, my favorite Miss K, but more than just my teachers being a mentor, I want to thank my teacher for just being more than a teacher, but a mentor and a friend, teaching me lessons, life lessons that I can use beyond the classroom, and how to build onto character and become a better version of myself. Thanks for God for being yourself. I appreciate you breaking down all that early English in ways I can relate to in everyday life. I want to shout out Miss Ludwig and Miss Cole as well. Shout out to all the parents for raising such strong, resilient graduates who are here with us today. I want to thank my family and all their support and motivation to allow me to be here today, especially my father.
Good evening, teachers. I have the honor of introducing some special awards. And the first award, disclaimer, before I get started, I may tear up, just pray me through, hallelujah. This year's Student of the Year is awarded to Najee Jacob. Has been enrolled at ATAP for 3 years. Her GPA is a 3.36, and she is ranked 3rd overall in her class. Najee was recently crowned prom queen, which is obvious that she is respected amongst her peers. Najee is considered the most reliable, dependable, professional, and confidential amongst the ATAP faculty. She is well respected and served in roles such as student council, she was an office mentor, and she was a part of the senior committee. Najee ranks first in the students who were accepted to the most colleges. We know that she will do great in life wherever it leads her. So now we present to you this year's Student of the Year, Ms. Najee Jacob.
Good evening, teachers and faculty and parents. In the class of 2018 students, I am Najee Jacob, and I am honored to be this year's Student of the Year. This year's has been a big year for our seniors. We all have worked hard just to get to this significant day. My journey throughout high school was definitely memorable. I remember when I first got here in 10th grade. I really didn't know a lot of my 2K18 classmates because my schedule was filled with other grades. Even though I didn't know a lot of my classmates, I still had my MSA crew, Savannah, Ashley, Jacquez, and Samuel, and more. Sitting in the back of Miss Otis' class, listening to Louie calling me Granny all the time. When I got to 11th grade, I wanted to actually get to know my classmates. That's when I got to hang with the 7 in science class by helping each other with our work. And I got to know some of the 2017 class. Over the times, I got to know Sabrina and Sammy, all of the laughs and jokes we cracked on each other. This year I had made lots of fun memories with everybody in my class, from having group discussions, our trip to the Bahamas, and our unorganized senior skip day, which we still haven't had, and our senior day. A life lesson I learned in high school is not to worry or stress a lot. Things will work out just fine. One of the most important life lessons I learned is to not procrastinate. When you have something serious, when you have something to do it. Do not just let it pile up. Finish it before you get it. My words of wisdom are to never look back, always move forward, and never forget your goals. It doesn't matter if a million people tell you what you can't do, or if 10 million tell you no. If you get one yes from God, that's all you need. I want to thank all the teachers for voting me Student of the Year. Truly appreciate it. I want to say congratulations to my senior class. We did it, y'all. I want to thank my mom and my family for helping me get through this year. Last but not least, Thank all my peers, teachers, and family and friends for listening to me. Thank you.
Okay. Now, for the next honor, I'm really excited to present this. This year's class motivational speaker is none other than Mr. Jacob Hutchinson. Jacob has been enrolled at ATAP for 13 years. Jacob is an honor roll student and has grown into such a responsible and charming young man. Right before our eyes. Jacob is known for talking any faculty member, including myself, into getting him something to eat off campus. So we know that he has the skills to motivate his class. So without further ado, we present to you Mr. Jacob Hutchinson.
My speech is not that long. I didn't know I had to write like 3 pages, so, alright. This year has been an amazing time with my classmates. I have so many memories and friendships I wouldn't believe I would make at my time as a senior. This has to be the best year of my life so far. I've made so many friendships. I've done a lot of things I wouldn't expect to do. And why is there so many people? But I got a couple of words from my classmates. We've had our ups and downs as a class, but at the end of the day, we've made it, and that's all that matters. I'm gonna miss everyone I've graduated with and went to school with. Everyone has a bright future ahead of them. Just stay focused and have the same mentality we used to graduate. Anything is possible. I love all you guys, and we're all going to do great in life. I think that's all I got on this paper. I don't know what else to say, but I would like to give some thanks to my teachers, Mr. Fairbanks, Conan, Cote, all the times I came in late to their class. They just turned the other way, let me walk in. Every time we needed extra help, they just, I don't know, they just helped me. I think that's all I gotta say. I'm just ready to get my diploma, go get some food. I don't do this a lot, so I don't know how to end it, so I'm just gonna walk away.
Class of 2018, will you please stand? Superintendent Williams, I present to you the class of 2018. They have successfully fulfilled all of the obligations required by the state of Michigan.
That's right, James.
Mrs. Jones, on behalf of the Board of Directors in the state of Michigan, I accept the graduating class of 2018. You may be seated.
Never be enough. Time will go
and Nicky Eyes, and Mikey Francesi.
Michael Franzese was not just a soldier, but a capo in the notorious Colombo crime family. He spent the better part of a decade in federal prison on charges including tax fraud, racketeering, and parole violation.
I grew up in New York where there are 5 organized crime families. My dad, Sonny Franzese, was the underboss of the Colombo family back in the 1960s. I went to see my dad in Leavenworth in the visiting room, and I said, "Dad, I'm not going to school anymore." And he said, "Okay, son, but if you're going to be on the street, then I want you on the street the right way." In his mind, the right way was to become a member of his life. He said, "Go home, somebody will be in touch with you, do whatever you're told." And that's how it started for me.
He was a main member of organized crime. His main forte was making money for the mob. In a very short period of time, he made over $1 billion for the Colombo organized crime family.
Yeah, by far the most lucrative business I got involved in was the wholesale gasoline business. And in a nutshell, we devised a way to collect the taxes, not pay the government the taxes. And I was there to be in business, to make money, real money.
Life magazine calling the mob's young dreams. The government brought one of the biggest money earners in the history of organized crime.
Handsome and highly young man, as rich as royalty, and royal he is, a prince of the mob.
When millions live the flashy life, it can be noticed and nothing done.
Did you fix any games in college?
Absolutely.
He says he doesn't have what he doesn't.
As about 50.
How do you know?
Because I personally delivered it. I was notorious, infamous, maybe sophisticated at times, but I was a criminal. Eventually you realize it's a life built on treachery, and that money and power are the driving forces. And I began to question the life and my commitment to the life at that time.
Making the most money for the mob since Al Capone, Michael was the youngest person listed on Fortune magazine's 50 most wealthy and powerful mob bosses. Now, as one of the only guys from that list still alive, Michael has transitioned from powerful mob boss to now speaking in front of thousands of people each week. A lot has changed these past 20 years, but it's safe to say that Michael Franzese is a man on a mission.
Honor and the pleasure of introducing Arts and Technology Academy of Pontiac 2018 commencement speaker, Mr. Michael Franzese.
Well, 1996, I've probably spoken to several thousand people over the years, all over the world, from Singapore to Australia to Bulgaria, every state in the United States. And I've spoken to so many young people throughout the years. But I was telling September and some of these people, this is the first time I ever got to wear a robe. So this is very special. It really is. I'm really excited to be here. I was honored and I consider it a great privilege when I was asked to be here and deliver a message. You know, it's not every day that somebody with my background comes up and speaks to you about anything. And, you know, you're going to hear a lot of things throughout your life, you young people. I'm very proud of all of you. I want you to know that. I have a real heart for young people. I have 7 kids of my own, 6 grandchildren now. And I speak all over the country at high schools and colleges, and I go into detention centers. I spent 8 years in prison with a lot of young people coming into the system, and I really have a heart for young people. And, you know, sometimes more than education that you're going to get in school, which is so important, education is so important, it's the life skills that you're going to need to navigate this life. Because sometimes it's tough. And when people can address you that have been there and have done that and have gone through some struggles in their life, it's good to pay attention. And I'm certainly not going to preach to you. It's not what I do. But I am going to try in the next 15 or 20 minutes to give you some knowledge that hopefully you'll take with you throughout the years. And the one thing that I don't want you to do is make the same mistakes that I made through my life, because I'll tell you this, I'm probably the most blessed, most fortunate person that's ever going to come up and speak to you about anything. And the reason I say that is because had I been left up to my own to do what I wanted to do in my life and follow the path that I was on, I'd either be dead or in prison for the rest of my life. And quite honestly, that's what I deserved. That's what I earned for myself, having spent over 20 years on the street every day, and I mean every day, in violation of both God's laws and the laws of man. And I did it knowingly and willingly. Nobody pushed me into a criminal lifestyle. It's a life that I chose at that time. And it's become crystal clear for me over the years, crystal clear, that if God didn't have a different plan and a purpose for my life, I wouldn't be here tonight. No doubt about it. And like I said, my purpose, I believe, is to be an encouragement to all of you, to make you understand that this life is tough, and the decisions that you make are going to be so vitally important for you. Vitally important. And you know, oftentimes I'll go into a high school and I'll see something on the wall and it says, you can be whatever you want to be in life, follow your dreams. And honestly, I don't know if that's true. Because if I could have been what I wanted to be, I'd be playing center field for the New York Yankees. That's what I wanted to be. Mickey Mantle was my idol. I wanted to be center fielder for the New York Yankees. One problem, I was pretty good. I wasn't good enough to do that. But you know, as I went on in life and I started to do the right thing, all of a sudden things start to become clear to me, and now I'm doing something that I never thought, never dreamed I'd ever be doing in my life, but I get so much satisfaction out of it, and I consider it a blessing. And if you stay on the right track, don't make mistakes. Don't put extra baggage on your back by making those mistakes. You'll see you will be fulfilled, and eventually I believe you'll be blessed and you'll be doing what you want to do in your life, and it'll be very fulfilling. I'm going to give you a little bit of history so you know where I'm coming from, and I'll get through it quick because people like to tell my story in 6 minutes, 6 hours, or 6 days. It's a long one. But I'll try to be really brief to give you some background. My dad was the underboss of the Colombo family, one of the 5 New York Mafia or Cosa Nostra families. And that's a very powerful position. In that life, you have a boss, an underboss, a caporegime, or a soldier. And my dad was kind of like the John Gotti of his day. I'm sure most of you heard of John. He's been all over the television network and everywhere else. But I grew up very differently, I hope, than most of you in here, in that I grew up hating law enforcement, hating the police, not because my dad taught me that way, but because of what I witnessed in my life. I loved my dad, and my dad was always target of law enforcement. They were around us all the time, and I felt they were harassing our family and harassing him. And I want you to understand this, I certainly do not feel that way anymore. I finally learned in my life that they were the good guys and we were the bad guys, at least most of the time. Look, any walk of life, anybody can get out of hand. But I love my dad very much, and I grew up in that atmosphere. My dad originally didn't want this life for me. He wanted me to go to school and be a doctor. Son, stay off the street, get an education, that's what it's all about. And I was on that road until my dad got in some very serious trouble. And I like to tell a little story about my dad. I kind of honor him with it. When I was a kid in school, I played all 3 sports. I was kind of a jock. And my dad would never miss a game, no matter what he was doing, mob business, legit business. I'd be playing ball and he'd show up. And baseball was really my sport. This happened so often, I'll repeat it. I'd be playing ball and I'd be looking out of the corner of my eye. I'd be up to bat looking for Dad. All of a sudden, he would drive up in a big black Cadillac or a black Lincoln, and he'd always come late, so he'd never go into the parking lot. He'd always pull right up to the field. And for those of you my age, remember those 1960 Cadillacs? Their fin was about half the size of this room. You couldn't miss him, right? So he'd pull right up to the field. He'd get out of the car, always dressed sharp in his suit, always have 5 or 6 guys with him. He'd never travel alone. And he'd walk onto the field. I'd be up to bat. I kid you not, the umpire would take one look at that crew. He would never call strike 3 on me when he saw Dad. He was very good for my batting average back then. And, you know, he was great back then. And he got some real trouble in the 60s. He was indicted several times for some very serious crimes. Eventually drew a 50-year prison sentence back in 1967 and went off to do his time in 1970. I was a pre-med student at Hofstra University when that happened. I was devastated when my dad went into prison. I figured he was 50 years old when he went in. I figured at 50 on top of that, he'd never come out of prison alive. Today, just as an aside, my dad is 101 years old. He did 38, thank you. He did 38 years in prison on that 50, and up until its release last year, he was the oldest living inmate in America. He was the oldest inmate in the prison system in America, maybe in the world. And now he's the oldest living made guy who was part of that criminal lifestyle in America. And I'm very blessed that my dad is home now, and even at 101, we lost 38 years together, but we're trying to make up some of that time now. But at that point in time when my dad went in, I did become a member of that life. I followed him into that lifestyle, quit school. I was part of that life for almost 20 years. I had some success. I knew how to use that life to benefit me in business, but eventually went on myself to get indicted several times, and eventually I pled guilty on a charge and accepted a 10-year prison sentence, a big restitution and fine, and went off to do my prison. But before that, after I had spent 20 years in that life, one of the many things I was doing, I was making movies back in 1984. Smokey Robinson still is a very dear friend of mine. He came to me with a screenplay for a breakdance movie. A lot of music, a lot of dance, a lot of rap music. But that's when you can listen to rap music on the radio, not like today. Forget about this stuff today. But back then it was cool. We had the Sugar Hill Gang, Run DMC, the Fat Boys, Curtis Blow, old school rap, right? I like those guys. And they were all in my movie. And I said, Smokey, I'll make the movie if we can film it in Florida. I had a house down there. We liked the warm weather. So we filmed it in Florida. And we bring in 50 professional dancers to dance in the film, cast and crew from LA to work in the film. And guys, you'll appreciate this. I threw a party for everybody. We had just finished pre-production. We were in the back of the hotel. We had a barbecue. Monday, we were starting principal photography, the heavy stuff, so I threw a party. I'm sitting by the pool at the hotel, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, out of the water comes this gorgeous 20-year-old girl. I saw her. Everything went in slow motion. It was like a Pepsi commercial, right? And she looked like a dancer to me. She had kind of a dancer's body. The choreographer was sitting near the pool. And I said, Jeff, is that one of your girls? He said, yeah. I said, what's her name? He said, her name is Camille. I said, bring her over. I want to meet her. I figured big shot producer, she'll want to meet me. Why not, right? So I introduced myself to her. I said, Camille, I want to take you out to lunch, get to know you better. I'm your producer. She said, sure. Very sweet, polite, gorgeous, right? We set a time and a place. I have a restaurant set up in one of the major hotels. I get up there. I figured she'll come up. I'll sweep her off her feet. She's mine, right? That was my attitude back then. So I'm up there 15 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes later, she stood me up. She never showed up, right? So the next day I see her on the set and I say, hey, what happened? You know, we had a date, you didn't show up. And I thought she was going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. And she kind of looked at me and she gave me that look like, did you really expect me to show up? You know, so she kind of put me on my defense at that time. I said, well, were you busy? She says, yeah, I was rehearsing. Could we try it again? She said, sure. Okay, I go again, she stood me up again. Now, she did this to me 5 times. Now, if she was here, she'd say, stop exaggerating. It wasn't 5 times. Guys, let me tell you, we know when we're stood up. Believe me, I was the offended party. It was 5 times. One night, I catch her at we had a cast meeting. She's coming out of the meeting, and she was with some of her friends, and she was upset. I said, oh, this is great for me, tailor-made for me. You know, I'll solve a problem. I got to fire somebody. I'm in. She finally starts to talk to me a little bit, tells me she's from Anaheim, California. She used to dance in Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm. She had no idea who I was or what she was getting involved with me. And she tells me, Michael, I need to go home. And I said, why? She said, well, my parents are very strict. I've never been this far away from home, 3,000 miles. She said, I need to go home. And she said, there's some things happening on this movie set that I really don't agree with. And quite honestly, it was a wild set. Music, dance, young kids. It got out of hand a bit. And I used to watch. She would never hang out with any of the kids. She did a rehearsal back to the room. So I said, well, what's the problem? And she turned to me, and I don't remember exactly how she said it, but she said, well, I'm a girl of faith, or I'm a believer, or I'm a Christian. And I said, well, I'm Catholic. We got something in common. Let's talk, right? Anything to get to know her better. I got to make a very long story short. I fell very much in love with this young woman. She's now my wife for 34 years. And thank you. And people, I will tell you this. It was through this young woman that I believe God not only saved my life, but transformed my life. Because had I not met her and not had this desire to change because of her and because of her faith, which I believed was real, I wouldn't be standing here today. And ladies, I want to tell you something, okay? I was considered to be one of the biggest mob guys in New York at that point in time. You could Google me, read up about me. It's not important, but the point I want to make is this. Never underestimate the power of a praying woman. I believe women are special. I have 5 daughters, and I tell them all the time, you aim high. That doesn't mean you have to marry the wealthiest guy or anything like that, but you need to have a guy that respects you, that treats you right, always. And you don't demand anything less. And if a guy is not willing to do that, then you don't need to be with him. You move on in your life, because I believe women are special and they should be treated that way. It's how I treat my wife, and it's how I want my daughters to be treated by their boyfriends. And believe me, if they don't, I have a word with them. And it's a little more than a word, believe me. I use the mob stuff when I have to. But anyway, I really mean that. And guys, I want to tell you this. You know, you need to aim high also. Let me tell you something that's so important. It's important for all of us, but it's especially important for you at your young age. In this world, we are who we hang out with. Remember that. Remember that. I want to tell you something, guys. When I came to Christ, and I love the Lord, I didn't get a lobotomy. I don't forget the 20 years on the street that I put in. Sometimes I'll get off a plane in New York, somebody will look at me the wrong way, and I'm ready to go. It happens like this, you switch back. But you know what? You must surround yourself with the right people. If I wasn't so fortunate, so blessed to have myself in the right company, I wouldn't be here today. Don't ever let anybody lead you down the wrong path. Peer pressure, we hear about it all the time. You got to dismiss it. Get rid of it. If somebody is not leading you in the right direction, you cut them out of your life. If you can't educate them, you cut them out of your life, because you don't need anybody to take you down that path. I saw it happen so many times. You know, the 8 years I spent in prison with so many young people coming into the system, 20, 21 years old, mandatory minimum drug sentences, they all had the same story. It was so sad, and I really had a heart for these young people. I made a commitment when I come out to do my best to try to lead these people in the right direction. The things that people tell you, they tell you because they care about you. Your principal, all these people, your teachers, I can tell just by spending a few minutes with them, they love you, they care about you, they want you to do well in life. And people, let me tell you this. You're going to find out that life is tough even when everything is good. When you're doing the right thing, things happen. Sometimes, God forbid, a sickness, you know, you get fired in your job. Things happen all the time. You got to get through that. If you make bad decisions, and you put extra baggage on your shoulders, you're going to make life that much harder. And all of a sudden you turn around, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50 years old, and you say, what did I do with my life? I can't stress enough how important it is. Get your education. Set your goals in life. And guys, let me tell you this. Remember this. In America today, you do not get away with criminal conduct anymore. Forget about it. Law enforcement is too sophisticated, they got too many weapons, you go that route, you're going down. And your best friend, you know, I give people advice, some of these young gangbangers I talk to all the time, I said, you want to commit a crime? Let me give you advice, do it alone. Don't do it with anybody else, because your best friend, okay, that's such a chum with you, now is such a good pal, when those cops put him in a room and they start to scare him a little bit, watch out how fast they don't become your friend. Believe me when I tell you. And I'm not, it's just a tough thing to stand up under that. So, but hopefully you'll avoid that. Don't make those decisions, don't make those mistakes, please. And you know, I can go on and on and on, but I'm not going to do that. This is your night, and hopefully your future. And I know you got a lot planned for tonight. I just appreciate the privilege of being able to come here and address you and spend a little bit more time with you. But God bless you all. People, I want to tell you this. And I really mean this, you know, and I have to bring this up all the time. I spent 3 years in the hole. I spent 8 years in prison all the time. I spent 3 years in the hole in solitary. The first night that they put me in there was the worst night of my life, okay? I'll be honest with you people, I used to make fun of demean people that were suicidal. I call them weak. How do you do that? How do you not face up to your troubles? I don't do that anymore, because that night, I wasn't brave enough to kill myself, but I wanted to just lay my head down on a pillow, close my eyes, and not wake up again, because it was too painful for me to think about my future. The loss of everything, losing my young wife, losing my kids, never seeing the free world again. I was only 39 years old. It was very hard for me to accept. And that night, while I was laying on that cot, I said, God, just take me. And I wasn't a strong believer. a prison guard walked by my cell. He looked in on me and he said, "Francis, you okay? You don't look good." I chased him. I said, "Get away from me. I don't want to see any of you guys tonight." That man came back about a minute later and he pushes something through the slot on the door. I hear a thump. I look down. It was a Bible. And I want to tell you this. I was feeling sorry for myself that night. I was so hopeless and I was so angry with God. I picked up that Bible and I threw it against that cinder block wall as hard as I could. It's like everything came out of me. It took me about another minute. I said, "You know what? I don't need another enemy. I got nothing but enemies. It's only me and God in this cell." And I picked up that book. I picked up that book and I looked at that cement ceiling. And I said, "God, if you're up there, okay, you need to give me something to make me feel better. I can't deal with this. I need help." I'm holding that book, and I didn't even know where to begin at that point in time. I'm holding the book, and it falls open to the book of Proverbs. Was it a coincidence? I don't think so. I'm a very analytical guy. You know, I don't accept things that easy. You got to prove things to me. You got to show me evidence. I want to read it. And I opened it up to the book of Proverbs, and I started reading it. And people, I got to tell you this. Proverbs is a brilliant book. You know, when God said to Solomon in the book of Kings, "Nobody before you will ever be as wise, and nobody after you will ever be as wise for a reward for something he didn't do," with the exception of Jesus, who had a little bit of advantage, he was God, nobody was as brilliant as Solomon. And I started reading that book, and it really started to impact me, and then I came to a verse that just stopped me cold. It was Proverbs 16:7. Remember this. It says, "When a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, even his enemies are at peace with him." And I started to think at that moment, because I had nothing but enemies on both sides. I had walked away from that life. My dad had disowned me for a time. People wanted to hurt me. You can't walk away from that life. The government was upset with me. I had nothing but enemies. And I started to think the enemies part got me. And then I kind of drifted back and it said, "When a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord." I said, "Were my ways pleasing to the Lord?" And when you're in that situation, you don't lie to yourself. I said, "No." And I started to read on a little bit more, and I'm going to end with this. And I came to a verse that's become the verse of my life. And people, I believe it should be the verse of every one of your lives, especially you young people. It all starts here. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him." And remember this. He will, not he can, not he might. He will make your path straight. That's it, people. God bless you.
I'm happy to present the commencement speaker, Mr. Michael Francis, with this award, ATAP 2018, on behalf of myself and the Board of Directors, in honor of your dedication to change. He has made everything beautiful in his time, Ecclesiastes 3 and 11.
Now, the time you've all been waiting for. Graduates, will you please stand and walk towards the stage? Willie Amerson. Samuel Cable. James Davis.
That's right, James! That's right, you did that! Yes, James!
Stephanie Diaz.
We see you! We see you!
Andrea Foster. Micah